Even though the weather's grown colder, you still have time to have your fruit trees pruned. Logan Extermination says your trees need to be trimmed back in order to achieve success next year. And this is the first step to a bountiful harvest. However, you could do more bad than good if you don't know what you're doing. Save the headache and call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Prices will vary depending on your needs. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the Garden Guide. Will Feel Right, along with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden, talking all things garden, lawns, yards. We're down into the final few weeks of the, I guess, planting season.
Yeah.
Although planting season really kind of just always can go on, but
until the ground's frozen, you can still plant.
And you know, I've even had to dig a few holes even once the ground freezes.
Yeah.
It's not something I'd recommend.
Hey, we've been growing a bunch of stuff.
do.
Yeah, we've been growing a bunch of stuff at the store too. We're experimenting with doing microgreens and herbs for the wintertime. And so we've been growing a lot of stuff at the store in the greenhouse and in our warehouse, and experimenting with some off season growing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some pretty good samples of some radish microgreens, and we've got some arugula, and we'll have basil and oregano and thyme here pretty soon. So yeah, so we're trying some different things at Anderson's. Yeah. So we're kind of excited about that. It's been really fun to learn some new processes and how to grow those things, indoors under lights, and it's actually been really pretty fun. And then we've been doing trade shows as well too, and so it's been fun to go see new products and see new things that are out there. And we found some nice new coconut coir pellets for starting seeds indoors, for home gardeners. Yeah. And I did some tomatoes in there, and they came up faster than the peat pellets, and they grew much bigger, much quicker. And I was very impressed. Yeah, so those are really fun. We found some digital water meters that they're more commercial. They're not really for residential use, but it's something that we could link up digitally to our phones. So there's an app, you can use it, and then you stick it into like the pots of the trees that we've got at the store. And within 5 seconds, it will tell you what the water content is and how much nutrition is there in the pot. Yeah, and so we could use it to spot check stuff. So like when my watering people go through, we can go back the next day and we can like check it and say, okay, these are great. We don't need to water again, and it will cut down on some of the work that we end up doing. And I think sometimes we end up even in the nursery we end up overwatering sometimes, and sometimes we definitely underwater as well too. So this will really help to figure out what the moisture content is in the soil, and how much nutrition's there, and it tells you what the soil pH is. It's a really pretty cool tool, and so I'm looking forward to trying that out as well.
New toy.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's been 3 years since we've been able to go to trade shows, and so we've been able to look at new products, but not really touch, feel, taste, and all that stuff. And so it was really fun to go and catch up with people we haven't seen for quite a few years. And see what's new, and see some of the new products, and see some things and go, that's really cool, but it's gonna like break the first time we use it, so I think I'll pass on that. It's different when you have to shop online only, and you look at something and you go, God, that's really cool, and you bring it in, you look at it and you go, why did I order that? That's not what I thought I was getting, and so this is much more productive.
Definitely all guilty of that.
Yeah, much more productive. So we found some really cool things, some fun new products to try out for next year. And it's a little difficult when you go to the trade shows, because there's like certain products that we already sell and we already carry and we're really familiar with, and then there's like 10 others that kind of do the same thing that other vendors or other businesses, other companies are trying to sell, and they're like everyone's is the best, and so we have to go through and kind of try things and see which ones really do work for us, and in some cases the ones that we're already using that are really successful, it's hard for us to just go out and okay, let's just go with this other company because their products is supposedly better, until we get out there and actually try it and find out. And so sometimes it takes us a year or two with some new products to really experiment with them and go, hey, this is amazing. We're going to go in this direction instead. So it's a process that we go through as well too. It's fun to see the new stuff. It's fun to try some of the new things, but if it's not giving us a way bigger bang for our buck, then we'll continue with the stuff that we're more familiar with. We've been using for years already. So
there's some things that just will never be able to beat water and fertilizer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's so many different fertilizers out there. So you got all the organic ones, and then you've got the ones that have the biostimulants in there, and you've got the ones that have the mycorrhiza in there, and then you've got the ones that have like a little bit of everything in there, and then you've got like your traditional fertilizers. Oh, but we've chelated them organically, so now they're more available to the plant. I mean, there's so much. It's overwhelming sometimes when you see.
Meanwhile, you and I's grandfathers are probably rolling over in their graves just saying, just go back to the old steer manure, guys. That was the best thing we had.
And like all the professional sports have gone to like analytics and data, and you got to analyze all your data. Well, it's like our industry's no different.
Sure.
And it's like that meter that I was telling you about. It's like it'll track how wet your pot's every day for the whole summer, and tell you where you missed out and store it. And then you can analyze that data. And I'm just like going, I don't really need that much information. It's like I can look at it and tell you that it's like dry, but it's kind of nice when you have people that aren't experienced and you can send them out and you can water, and then you can go back and you can just like check and make sure if they're actually doing it right, if they're overwatering or underwatering. And I mean, so it has some real great benefits, but I'm not going to pull up all the data on everything that's we've checked for the entire year and look at it and just go, no, I don't need that.
You could present the report to the city and wow the mayor. Here's the moisture content of the hanging pots along Main Street.
On Main Street, yep. So and we were able to save 50% of our water this year because we didn't have to water them every day.
There you go. Hey, in addition to some of the new things that are coming to Anderson Seed and Garden, we should mention the cash sales going on right now and is in the final few weeks.
Cash sale still going on. So right now, if you pay with cash on all of our remaining trees and shrubs and perennials and we've got a few vines left, got some evergreens left, 60% off if you pay with cash. And 40% off if you pay with a credit card or a debit card. So we've increased the discount percentage just a little bit, so it's up to 60%. We did just get some new mums and asters in that look amazing. I think those are just on the 50% off price, so it's not like, since they're brand new, we're still doing a sale on those, but it's not the extra 60. They're just half price right now. So, but there's some gorgeous ones that look really great, and the weather's been amazing. I mean, 70 degrees and nice temperatures, and I'm still harvesting tomatoes and harvesting zucchinis, and cucumbers are still going. I had to water them the other day, darn it.
And I'm sure a lot of people are coming in and saying, okay, Mark, when do I start picking these squash?
Squash, yeah.
Because my wife and I, we were looking at it and think, do we wait?
I'm doing mine next
Pull
week.
them now?
Yeah, I'm going to do mine next week. And the pumpkins are ready too, so they're like ready to go. So usually, if we haven't had frost by the 10th of October, 15th of October, that's a good time to bring them in.
Bring them in just in case.
Yeah, because our next frost is going to be a big one. It's going to be like a harder frost. But I'm sure we've had frost in parts of the valley already. It's been, getting into the mid-30s in some spots. We probably had a little bit of frost damage. But if you wait until frost hits those squash plants, that's just fine, as long as it's not too cold. If we get into the mid-20s, it'll damage the fruit, and so you want to like harvest those and get those brought in. So I got all my onions in, I've got almost all our potatoes in. It's time to get the squash now too. So And we'll leave those in a warm, dry location for a couple weeks, and then by first part of November, when it really does start to get colder at night, then we'll put those into our storage location, and we'll be ready to go.
So next week, despite what the weatherman says, best to pull those squash.
I think we're there.
Yeah.
I think we're about there. So, and I'd be surprised if we don't get frost in the next 10 days.
Yeah.
That's probably going to come. We'll get a storm that rolls through. It'll cool things down, and then we'll get like frost as soon as it clears up after that. So it's coming.
Meanwhile, those who are listening to us up in Montpelier and Trenton and some of those areas are saying, no, we've already had snow.
We've already had snow, yeah, exactly. And it was on the 10th. I think it was on the 10th of October last year. We had that big snowstorm.
It was.
Yeah, and we had like all that damage. And
yep, a year ago right now, we were digging out and
the snow melted really fast. I mean, it melted really fast, but we had a big snowstorm.
That was a huge storm.
Yeah, that was a good start to the season. So, but I understand that our water year ended up with us having a lot more water than we anticipated. So it seemed like we were actually above average for our water year.
I saw the Department of Water Resources said we ended with a little better than years past. Part of that, though, they said was not necessarily because of the extra snowpack or rain, was because we're just doing a better job overall just conserving water,
which
is great.
And we just had big storms through the summertime, too. You know, we had some storms that really dumped a lot of water on us, and so that really helped after a dry, hot summer. So not too bad.
We need it, and when we get it, if we can conserve it, that's even better.
Not too bad. So, homecoming today.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should mention that.
Homecoming's today, so it's going to be a little crazy downtown. So if you want to come down to Anderson's, you are certainly welcome to come park in the parking lot behind our place. Great place to go check out the parade. And then we've got some fun things happening at Anderson's. Not just the cash sale. We've got the Mums and the Asters. We're starting to decorate for the holidays, so you can come see previews of what we're doing with some of our Christmas trees. Holiday lights, we're starting to pull those out as well too. So the holiday lighting, while the weather's great, this is kind of
actually probably the best time to do it.
Really good time to get your holiday lights up. You don't have to turn them on, make your neighbors upset. Just get them up and make sure they're working, and then just kind of leave them until after Halloween or Thanksgiving or
at least after Halloween.
Whenever you want to start doing it.
Halloween.
Hey, but with the color changing lights that I've got, so with the Lightstream lights, I can program mine and they'll do Halloween colors, and then after Halloween I can do like Thanksgiving colors, kind of fall colors as well too, and then after Thanksgiving then we can change them over to the Christmas colors as well too. So one set of lights produces 22 different colors. And you can program each bulb to do different colors with a nice little app on your phone, so it makes it really cool. It's really fun to do. So then I just leave mine up, and then we've got winter lights for January, and then we've got Valentine lights for Valentine's, and we do greens for St. Patrick's, and we do Easter pastel colors for Easter, and it's really kind of fun. So they're holiday lights. They're not Christmas lights.
And they last a lot longer than the incandescent lights.
Yeah. Since they're all LEDs, So we've got some great options when it comes to LEDs. Very inexpensive, very power consumption saving, which is great. So you don't end up using a whole lot of power. So your power bill doesn't really increase much because the light. The consumption is so small, but they're durable too. It's like when you take them down and you accidentally drop a section onto the concrete, they just bounce. They don't break, which is
back in the old days,
which is really nice. Yeah, and then our brand new link lights. So our link lights, we kind of developed those ourselves 2 years ago, and with COVID, it kind of messed up our launch on those. So it was a very soft launch for our link lights. But the link lights, they come in 50, 100, and 200 light sets. They're just clear right now. We were going to have multicolored and different colors next year. Hopefully we'll be able to program those also, so we'll be able to have different colors for each set. You buy one set and it'll produce like all kinds of different colors. But with the link lights, they link together. You can do up to about 1,200 lights linked together. If you do the 200 light sets, you can link 6 of them together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can do a whole bunch of lights. They're waterproof. They're submersible. You can step on them. They use minimal amounts of electricity, and they look just like an incandescent light. They look amazing, and so they're LEDs. Very, very durable. They're great for doing Christmas trees. They're great for doing outdoor settings. You can use them indoors, outdoors. They're awesome. Yeah, they're just amazing, and they link together, so you can just like have one plug that just does the whole set of 1,000 lights that you just linked together.
Gone are the days when you had to stretch the extension cord over to the far roof.
And the bulbs are not replaceable. You don't have to worry about replacing bulbs, so you can't like pull one out and then the set doesn't work. It's like they're hardwired in, and since they're LED, they'll burn for like 50,000 hours. And so when the LEDs start to fail, because they don't burn out, they just the LEDs will eventually fail. When they start to fail, you've just got so many lights on there, it doesn't really matter. You don't notice that there's a couple that are not functioning, and then maybe after 10 or 12 or 15 years, then it's just time to put a new set on.
Put the whole strand
just
up.
put a whole new strand on. But at 50,000 hours, you can burn them for 5,000 hours a year for 10 years, and they'll still be great.
It's great.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
So great time to check out the lights too.
Yeah. So the lights. We're starting to pull lights out, decorating the store. Mums and asters are in. Still have some good-looking trees and some good-looking shrubs as well, too. But this is the time of year where we really got to start prepping the yard, getting things ready. With the leaves starting to come off the trees, it's perfect time to think about spraying your fruit trees. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I just harvested my apples. I don't need to spray those again." Yeah, but there's blister mites that get into the apples and the pears that we can prevent for next year if we spray at the right time. There's some diseases that get into all the stone fruits, like shot hole fungus and bacterial bud blight and even fire blight, and we can control those diseases before they winter over and infect the plants for next year. So a lot of those insects, like the blister mites, and a lot of the diseases like the shot hole fungus, they'll actually infect the buds that are forming on the trees right now. So as the leaves are falling off the trees, the new buds for next year are already forming. And what will happen is the blister mites will transfer from the old leaves, and they'll transfer over to the new buds. And in the spring, your leaves will come out, and they'll already be damaged because the blister mites have lived inside the buds all winter long. And the shot hole fungus will transfer over, and the leaves will come out, and they'll already have holes in them. And so we can control a lot of these diseases and insects by doing a fall spray. And what we usually recommend is we do a combination of a disease control with a dormant spray or a horticultural oil. So we're going to use a horticultural oil or a dormant oil or a dormant spray, and then we're going to mix a fungicide in with it. Copper soap would be great. You could also use F-Stop would be excellent. The Complete Disease Control from Monterey, those would all be wonderful options. And then you mix that with your dormant spray, and then just spray the trees at about 25 to 50% leaf drop. So when you see about 25 to 50% of the leaves have dropped off the trees, that's the perfect time to spray. And that's going to happen here in the next week or 2 weeks, and you're going to see the leaves starting to come off. And then when you spray the trees, it will knock the rest of the leaves off, so it makes it really easy to clean up. So you don't have to worry about raking leaves every 3 days for 3 weeks or a whole month, because it just takes a long time for the leaves to come off. Once you see about 25% of the leaves have come off the trees, do your spray, and that spray will knock all the rest of the leaves off. Then you can just gather them all up with one shot, and it will make life a lot easier. But it will kill the blister mites before they transfer to the new leaf buds, and it will kill the fungus, the bacterial diseases and the fungal diseases that are going to winter over on your trees and infect your trees again for next year as well too. So never hurts to do it in the spring.
Time to do it now.
Yeah, it never hurts to do it in the spring as well too. But usually we're telling people when they're coming in July and they have shot hole fungus on their peach tree, and they're like, "What's wrong with this?" It's like, okay, this is shot hole fungus. We can keep it from spreading to your fruit right now, but really we've got to prevent it from infecting your tree again from next year, and the time to do that is in October. So I usually will tell people, put on your calendar about mid-October, go see Mark, in the store, and then we'll tell you how to do it. This is the time. Yeah, this is the time. So shot hole fungus, bacterial bud blight, fire blight. We can really control fire blight that's wintered over on the branches and the twigs if we spray this time of year. But blister mites for apples and pears especially. Really, really good time to do that. And at 25% leaf drop, that's when you want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when you want to do it.
Great time also, too. I think we're getting close to, if you have especially young fruit trees, to wrap those trunks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I can tell you from experience, we had a peach tree, and we didn't wrap it. And we lost
and
it.
it splits.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll split.
Those,
so those young trees have a really tender bark on them.
Yeah.
And if you get a lot of snow on the ground, you get a lot of intense sunlight in the wintertime, it'll reflect off the snow and it just kind of intensifies the heat on the bark. It'll split the bark open. In some cases, the sap inside the tree will freeze solid, and then you get those warm days and that reflected sunlight, and it will actually thaw the sap out. And then as it freezes up again at night, it'll split the bark open. And so just by wrapping your trees with a little bit of tree wrap, but right now, and leave it on until March, it will protect your tree from all that types of damage. And when that happens, you get that big split. Basically, if you don't prune your tree back about 50%, it's damaged the circulatory system so much that it can't push water and nutrient out, so that your tree just starts to die back.
And ours was so small. I mean, it had 2 or 3 limbs on it. It's a brand new little tree, and just couldn't survive. And if you do it now, then you avoid having to go out during that first snowstorm, kneeling down in the snow, trying to wrap those trees up.
Do it in the cold and the wet.
Get it done during the fall.
I've got 2 nectarines, an apricot, and 2 peaches that I need to protect as well too. They're young, and they're doing great. Boy, we just had some amazing nectarines. We had some amazing peaches, and got to try a couple of those new white apricots, and they were really quite tasty. Yeah, pretty darn tasty. So we'll take it.
Final apples, I think most apples are coming off the tree. We picked our pears. And
pears have been
brought
picked.
all those in. And
we've been making apple pie with our Cortlands, and it's been awesome. It's been so good. Yeah, it's been really, really good. And we've got pie dough back in stock. So so the pie dough finally, it's been almost a year, but we finally have the frozen pie dough back in stock. So perfect pie dough. They have been out of production for a year because of shoulder injury, and then they took advantage of the downtime to revamp their facility as well too. So they did like a whole new facility to do pie dough. So hopefully their production, they'll be able to do double or triple what they used to do, and hopefully we'll have it more consistently when pie season is on. So,
and that's not something that's just always out in the store. You just have to find one of your
it's in the
employees.
Back. Yeah, it's in the back. And so it's funny when people come in and they have heard from their neighbor that there's this amazing frozen pie dough at Anderson's, and they come in the door and they look around. And they look over here, and it's like, oh, this does not look like a food place, And so then they'll walk up to the seed counter and they'll go, do you guys have pie dough? It's like, it's in the back room. How many would you like? It's like, we'll just go grab it for you. So the freezer's not out on the sales floor. It's in the back room, but it's made locally. It's made just over the border,
just to the north of
in
us.
Grace, in Grace, Idaho, and it's some of the best pie dough that you've ever had. Yeah, it's really good. Made with the good old fashioned ingredients like lard and flour and
all natural
stuff. Yeah. So amazing pie dough. So pie dough's back in stock, and we've got more coming next week. So we'll be ready for the entire fall holiday pie producing season. Okay. So we'll be ready to rumble. So pie dough's back in stock. But bulbs too. Oh, we're selling through bulbs like crazy. So if you're listening and you want to plant some bulbs, don't wait. Don't wait.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is
it's
the
like
time to do it.
The last few years, bulbs have been a little slower to sell. They came in a little bit late, and this year they came in pretty much on time, and people have been excited about bulbs the last few years. And so we are selling through the tulips and the daffodils and the hyacinths like crazy. So right now, if you want to get out there and plant some bulbs, my preferred time for planting bulbs is right around the 20th of October. So we're right there. Yeah. So this is the time to get out there. Take advantage of the great weather. Dig your holes, a little fertilizer down the bottom, put your bulbs in, cover them up, water them. Make sure you water your bulbs after you get them planted. They need that good soil moisture, and then if we continue to have warm, dry weather, then you want to water them again about 2 weeks. So make sure that they have good soil moisture when the ground freezes in November, and then you'll have an amazing production of flowers for next year. Yeah.
Just a little fertilizer, and that's all you need.
And Hank was on the show last week, and he talked about a grower in Oklahoma, and they do cut flowers, and they do 150,000 tulip bulbs.
150,000
tulip bulbs, and they they just cut them all. It's all for cut flowers. So they let them bloom, and when the buds are just ready to start opening up, they just snip them and sell them as cut flowers.
Now, you were telling me also of
really
a special project that you had teamed up with the hospital.
Yeah.
Tulips.
So we went out to the hospital for the cancer center, and we planted pink tulips in their roundabout drive right there. So we planted about 1,000 bulbs. Yeah, not 150,000 bulbs.
Yeah, just
but we did
kind of put that in perspective.
Yeah, but we did 1,000 bulbs. But at Thanksgiving Point, I think they do over 100,000 bulbs at just Thanksgiving Point. I know, it's crazy. They were trying to break a Guinness World Book of Records this year, and they were trying to plant like 40,000 bulbs in an hour. Yeah, so it has a time limit on it. So I guess the previous record was like 15,000 bulbs in an hour. They were going to try and do 40 or 45,000 bulbs. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. I think it might even be this weekend that they're trying to do it. So Hank was going to fly back to Missouri and get the bulbs, because they had just arrived, and then he was going to drive them out here, and then he was going to participate with it as well too. So he was actually going to hand deliver those bulbs for,
and then help plant
Thanksgiving Point. Yeah, and hopefully help plant. So pretty cool.
All right. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about when we come back. We of course are in that season where it's time to start prepping the garden.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Start prepping the yard.
Yep.
A lot we can do to help prep our
box elder bugs are going
yeah.
crazy. We should talk box elder bugs and weeds. Oh my gosh, the weeds have just been out of control this fall. So weeds, box elder bugs, prep the garden, and we'll think of something else.
A lot more to talk about. And as a reminder, don't forget, it is homecoming weekend, so Main Street is closed, portion of Main Street. But Anderson Seed and Garden still open today, and we'll talk more. Home and Garden coming up. And it's Logan Extermination that brings you our news and weather here at the bottom of the hour. I'm Will Feelright. Well, during the first debate of the Utah Debate Commission, there wasn't really any drama or fireworks, but there were some emerging differences when it comes to gas prices, marijuana pardons, abortion, Ukraine aid, and the environment. It took place earlier this week during a debate at BYU between incumbent GOP Congressman John Curtis and Democratic challenger Glenn Wright. Now, at the start of the debate, candidates were asked what drives their politics, and Curtis said his political philosophy is rooted in a deep, strong conviction for love of this country. Wright, meanwhile, a Summit County Council member, said he aims for what's best for the nation and bases his decision on physics and economics. Now, the first district debate between incumbent GOP Congressman Blake Moore and Democratic challenger Rick Jones will be Monday night and will air live here on KVNU at 6 o'clock. And speaking of politics, former Logan City Council member and former education advisor to Governor Gary Herbert, Tammy Pfeiffer, has a new job representing a statewide organization that could be known as the Dignity Project. They've launched what is termed the Dignity Index. During KVNU's For the People show earlier this week, she explained that the way it will work is during debates and during other political appearances, candidates will be given a scale of 1 to 8 on their dignity towards each other.
There's been a lot of work reading, a lot of writers and thinkers and behavioral scientists and social scientists, and words matter. I mean, it's very well documented on the language that can lead us to war, to genocide, and it's the words that we use that matter.
Now, you can get more information by visiting dignityindex.us. Clear skies to continue. Will Feelright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd, and the Road Warriors highlighted the first day of a baseball wildcard weekend. The Padres hammered Mets starter Max Scherzer in Game 1 at Citi Field.
Swings at the first pitch. It's a missile out towards the right field corner. Marte goes back. It's a home run! The Padres' third of the night against Scherzer.
On KWFN, Jurickson Profar with the Met killing 3-run shot 4 home runs for the Pods, and San Diego stunned New York 7-1 with a chance to eliminate the Mets on Saturday. The Phillies down 2-0 in the ninth in St. Louis when they went to work with Gene Segura dealing the Cards this blow.
Swinging a ground ball right side. It's under the glove of Edman. It's into right. The game is tied. Here comes Castellanos. He'll score, and the Phillies lead it in the ninth.
On WIP, the Phillies scored 6 times in the ninth. They beat the Cardinals 6-3. A win today puts the Phils in the divisional round against the Braves. 2 other wildcard games, Seattle a winner over Toronto, and Cleveland edged Tampa Bay. This is ABC Sports.
Take the ride of your life. Join the American Diabetes Association's Tour de Cure annual cycling event. Call 1-888-DIABETES or visit diabetes.org/tour.
From gardening to landscaping, The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning. Will Feel Right along with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden as we're talking about all things gardening, lawns, home, how to decorate the house. We were talking about Christmas lights. I know, Christmas lights.
It's early.
It's hard to say that, but it is that time of year.
It's funny. We've been decorating for the last couple weeks. And it takes us 2 months to decorate the store. And I always have people that come in, they're just like, you're already starting. It's like, well, yeah, it takes us like 2 months to like reset the whole store. And that's when I usually pull out the jokes. And it's like, it used to be that the Santa's elves would show up, right after Halloween, and overnight the store would just be done. If the magic elves would show up on time, it would be perfect. But ever since COVID, they haven't shown up. Yeah. So and so it's like we're back to doing it ourselves. Yeah. 2 months. It takes us 2 months to reset the store, but when it's all done, it's gorgeous and it's like all prepped for the holidays, and it just feels all wintry and cheerful and fun, and it's a lot of work.
Nothing gets me into the holiday spirit more than when we have the holiday Christmas open house.
Yeah, we do the open house,
and the lights are just down low, and it's colder, and there's a little bit of snow.
Yeah, we've got like 25 trees all decorated and ready to go. And last year we almost had all the flowers still blooming on Center Street when we were doing the Christmas open house. Yeah, so it's like we had a nice extended fall. We had that cold weather in mid-October, but we grabbed the hanging baskets and we brought them inside, and then like 2 or 3 days later, we just put them back out, and they just like kept going and going and going. It was awesome. Yeah. We're gonna try and do it again this year. So
it could happen.
We'll see what happens.
The way these
and then
temperatures
Santa had his tomatoes last year in the greenhouse. Remember?
Those huge tomato plants. Yes.
So those were some new varieties that we were experimenting with last year, and I started them really late, and I didn't want them to die because I really wanted to try the tomatoes, and so we had just like 5 different tomato plants out there around Santa's sleigh. And Santa had tomato plants, and
it was perfect.
Some of the best tomatoes I've ever grown. So we grew them this year. So we did some of the Big Beef Plus, we did some of the Yellow Boy Plus, we did some of the Better Boy Plus, and some of my other tomatoes got diseased and didn't do as well, and those were perfect. Like the plants were huge and they were loaded with fruit, and the sweetness, a little bit sweeter fruit, and just amazing quality. So we were super impressed with these new varieties of tomatoes that we were growing with Santa last year.
So we got a lot to look forward to. We want to mention the cash sale here in just a minute too that's going on, but also just due to some prior engagements that both of us have to be out of the studio for today. We're not taking any calls, but we are talking about a lot of the questions that have come into the store over the last couple of weeks, especially when it comes to prepping lawns and gardens. We'll get to that in just a minute, but the cash sale is still on.
Cash sale is still going on. We are running low on plants, but I still have some good trees. I still have some nice shrubs. There's some evergreens, and we would love to find a home for those. So they are 60% off if you pay with cash. So if you pay cash, you'll get 60% off. If you do credit card, check, or debit card, you'll still get a 40% discount, but you get that extra 20 if you pay with cash. So it's a great time to come in. Tons of bulbs still to pick up and plant. Garlic, got a great selection of garlic as well. We just got some brand new mums and asters in different sizes. So I've got some 4 or 5 inch mums, and then we've also got some that are in like 1 gallon containers as well too. And they're all just starting to bloom. They look great, so I have some nice fall color out there. And of course, we're setting the store for the holidays, as we've been kind of talking about a little bit. So Christmas lights are coming out. The trees are getting decorated. I've got people coming in. They're already buying Christmas trees.
Well, we were talking about fruit trees in the last segment.
Yeah.
Time to spray. Time to get the trunks wrapped, especially for those young fruit trees. It's also the time to start getting the lawn ready.
Yeah.
This is the best time. We've mentioned this before. If you're going to only fertilize one time a year, this is it.
This is the time. Yeah, between now and Thanksgiving is really like your prime time for helping your grass recover and recuperate after a hot, stressful, dry summer. And we were able to keep lawns looking really pretty good this year. And I know a lot of our listeners were very conscientious of how much water they used. They cut back, used maybe half of what they were using. They didn't mind their grass stressing just a little bit. But my customers that used the Back to Green or the Hydrotain, it just made a huge difference for them. So they keep coming back and just saying, my lawn looks so amazing. I used half as much water, but it still stayed green and looked awesome all summer long, even though we were watering half of what we normally do. And so there's some really great products out there that help. But now's the time to get the grass back rejuvenated after the hot, dry summer. And so we recommend a slow-release nitrogen. So a high dose of a slow-release nitrogen, one that's going to break down over 10 to 12 weeks. So like the Fertilome Winterizer would be excellent. That would be great. I like the Green Maker from Fertilome also. That's a great fertilizer for fall and to move into winter. Has a lot of micronutrients in there, especially a higher dose of iron to really green the lawn up and get it looking good. But what's going to happen is the grass is going to start going into dormancy, but it's still awake and it's still feeding, and it's going to feed all winter long. It's going to get the root system healthy. It's going to get the stems all really healthy. And then as soon as the snow melts in the spring and the soil starts to warm up, those stems will be just like ready to produce blades of grass, and the grass will just take off like crazy. And so a good dose of fertilizer between now and Thanksgiving, slow release nitrogen, lots of micronutrients. Fertilome Winterizer would be amazing, and you don't have to water it in. So you could put it on and just wait for Mother Nature to water it in, and it'll be just perfect. It won't burn your grass or anything. Make sure and put it on when the grass is dry. So like in the late afternoon, early evening, put it on when the grass is dry. It'll just sit out there, and as soon as a storm comes through, or if you're only watering once a week right now because you're cutting the sprinklers back, that will work just great. And we had so much rain in September, we basically turned our sprinklers off for almost the whole month. And we've got them back on now, but we've cut it back where they're just going like once a week, just to keep some good soil moisture out there for the trees and the shrubs, and everybody keep them happy.
We were mowing the lawn this week, and my wife said, "Are our sprinklers on?" I thought, No, they're not.
Didn't turn
Finally
them back
turned them on last night for the first time in over a month.
It's been so nice to not have to worry about it. And then we're starting to drop our mower blade. So every time we mow now,
cutting just a little closer,
and we're not mowing every week. We're mowing every 10 days to 2 weeks, but we're starting to drop the mower blade down a notch every time we mow. And so when we get into really November, we'll try and get our last mowing in there, usually before Thanksgiving or before the big snowstorm that's going to just stick around. And we were able to mow like right up until Thanksgiving last year. But it's also a good time to prevent voles. So the voles are starting to become active, and it's been a very active season for them. So there's lots of them out there. And I tell people it takes 2 voles in November to turn into 200 voles in March. Yes. And that is not an exaggeration. That is the absolute truth. So 2 voles in November 1st will be 200 voles March 1st. And so you want to prevent, if you've had damage in the past, if you've got vacant lots or empty fields next door where the voles are out playing, they're going to find your yard, and they're going to have a ball all winter long out there, and they get underneath the snow. So there's some things we can do to prevent that. So I've got some bait stations that work great. I've got some baits that are excellent. I've got some repellents to keep them out of your yard entirely. And the best thing you can do is mow your lawn really close, as late as you can. I'm talking the last week in November, mow it, just scalp it right down to the ground if possible. And if you have to do a little bit sooner than that, just kind of keep an eye on it. If there's no snow on the ground, then just make sure and get out there and get it before that big snowstorm does come.
Cut it as close as you can.
Yeah, because then the voles don't have a place to play all winter. And then that's when you want to get the bait out there as well too. So if you can get the bait out there, try and control them before their population really starts to grow. Get some repellent around your property just to prevent them from coming in the first place, and then get that grass mowed down short. You're going to have some really great results keeping the voles out of your lawn and yard, and they won't be doing damage all winter long like they do for other people.
Yeah, and we've talked about before also, not only is it a great time to fertilize, but if you're also looking to maybe make some change and you want to bring in some new varieties, aerating your lawn and then throwing down some seed with that fertilizer.
Overseeding, yeah. Sometimes the 1st of October we're discouraging people from doing too much planting because the weather's changing too quickly. This is perfect weather, low 70s and cool temperatures, and that's a perfect time to get your lawn aerated. And we do aerations. Logan Extermination does our aerations for us. That's our sister company. They do all of our outside services. So you could schedule an aeration with Logan Extermination, and they can even apply your grass seed afterwards if you want to get a new grass variety going. Yeah. And when you aerate, then the holes are there. You put the grass seed on, and the grass seed falls down into the holes, and you get new grass coming up in all those holes. It's a great way to introduce some new varieties of grass into your lawn. I've actually seen lawns where we've done that for people, and they had polka dots the next year, because the new grass coming up in the holes and all those little round holes all over the place, they had polka dots in their lawn because the new grass that came up was such a darker green than their old grass. They had a polka dotted lawn. For a year, and then we did it again the next year, and then all of a sudden it just blended in, and it was like all gone. But yeah, it was fun going out there, and it's like I have this. My lawn's got like spots all over it, and it's like, okay, I'll come out and check it out. And sure enough, it's like we had aerated and put that new variety of grass in there, and it was like it was such a darker green compared to the grass that she had, and it's like polka dots everywhere.
Well, in addition to taking care of your lawn, I know a lot of people coming in and wondering about how to prep their gardens. Now that we've pulled most of the plants out, and we were talking last segment about harvesting those last squash and getting those pulled, it's time to start prepping that garden for next year.
And I started doing mine as well too. So cut all the corn stalks down, kind of work those into the soil. A lot of times we've had some friends that are farmers that have had cattle. We've cut that down, let them feed their cows with it. So there's some different ways you can do that. But I will pull all my tomato plants out, and we'll get rid of those. So we don't incorporate those back down into the garden. We actually those go in the green waste.
Chuck 'em.
Yeah, they disappear, and so they don't go back into the garden. But pretty much anything else that's left out there, we can just till right back in. And so we've got some carrots that we're wintering over, and I got to decide when I want to dig those up, and if I want to store them in the garage or just leave them out in the garden and do it either way. But it's time to start prepping. So when you get ready to till the garden, it's better to till the garden in the fall instead of waiting till spring. And the reason is we can incorporate a lot of organic matter into the garden this fall that will break down over the winter and then improve your soil for next year. So we'll have much, much better soil. So there's some great soil conditioners and amendments that we can add right now, and then we're going to till it all in, but we're going to add some nitrogen to help speed up that decomposition process, and we're going to put some humic on there because the humic has all those microbes and microorganisms and minerals that we're going to put back into the soil so that your vegetable garden will go crazy for next year. And it's good for flower beds as well too. But those microbes and microorganisms, they feed on nitrogen, so they need the nitrogen to help make that process work. Yeah. Otherwise, if we put a lot of organic matter out there, whether it's peat moss or straw or wood shavings or grass clippings or leaves off the tree or compost from the landfill, most of those at this time of year, they're all really high in carbon. And the carbon to nitrogen ratio to really get that stuff to break down properly is about 4 to 1. So you want 4 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Manures have a lot of nitrogen in there, so you could use steer manure, you could use poultry manure, but you want to balance it out so you have 4 parts of carbon and 1 part of nitrogen. And so if you don't have a good source for nitrogen, then you've got to supplement it with a commercial fertilizer. I usually end up using ammonium sulfate because the sulfur is really good to bring the pH of the soil down, which frees up the nutrient, makes it more available to the plants. So 3 to 4 inches of organic matter in the fall would work great. So 1 inch of a nitrogen-based compost, chicken manure, steer compost, anything that's got a higher nitrogen in there, and then 3 more inches, 3 parts of carbon. So that's going to be your brown dry stuff. So wood shavings, straw, grass clippings that have dried out, leaves. Compost from the landfill right now is really high in carbon because there's so much wood product in there that they've decomposed already. And then just add that to your garden, throw a little bit of nitrogen on there, put your humic on because it's got all those microbes to help speed up that decomposition process, and then till it in. Don't leave it sitting on the surface. Till it in. The more you incorporate it into the soil, the faster it will decompose over the winter time. And so I like to get that done before the end of October, before the weather really, really changes. Get that tilled and worked into the soil, and then it will break down over the entire winter, and your soil will be just like perfect the next spring to just go ahead and plant. And that's when you can get out there and you can plant your spinach really early. You can plant your onions really early because you've already prepped the garden last fall for the upcoming spring.
Neighbor of mine was telling me, he says, I'll go around to the neighbors, ask to have all their leaves.
Yeah.
Then he just throws all of that on, and then he just waits right until about Halloween, and then just lays that real thick, throws on the humic along with it, and then tills that all in, and then just lets it sit.
Yeah. No, it's the way to go. If you leave it sit without tilling it in over winter, it'll still be sitting there next spring. It doesn't do anything, and then you have to till in this mucky, muddy, awful mess. Yeah. But if you do it in the fall when it's dry and get that incorporated in, it's like it disappears over the winter.
Starts to break down.
It does, and it's like completely gone. So even like corn stalks, we'll cut the corn stalks down, then till those in. They'll even break down for the next spring if you do it right. So right now, corn's down, and we're starting to incorporate that in a little bit with our own tiller, and then there's some other things I'll cut down and work those into the soil as well too. But tomato plants, those will get pulled out, and we're not going to work those back into the soil. And then we'll add leaves, and we put a lot of compost on last year, so I'm not going to do quite as much this year, but we'll do some leaves, and we'll probably do some straw, and a lot of times I'll do like a cover crop, like in September if I've got a spot that's like done, we've already harvested everything, then I'll plant some clover or buckwheat or winter rye or something, let that grow, keeps the weeds down, and then just kind of work that back into the soil. But then when it's time to till, when I have somebody come in with a big tractor and do that for us, then that's when I put the humic on. I'll add some other amendments like zeolite. Really great time to put zeolite into the garden. I've got another product that's a type of soil conditioner that's pelletized, really easy to apply. It's got some poultry compost in it. It's got some gypsum in it. It's got a little bit more of the humate in it. That's a really great product to put in there as well too. Broadcast that out there, throw your nitrogen on, get your humic in, and then just till it all in. And you'll just have like amazing garden for next year.
So great way to get the garden ready. We've talked about getting the lawns ready. One of the other things that's just going crazy right now are the box elder bugs.
Box elder bugs, yeah.
What can you do to take care of those?
Every day I've got somebody coming in, and they're like, south side of my house is completely covered.
Yeah. And
they're going crazy, and they're coming
inside. And they swear they have half the population of box elder bugs just on their house.
So box elder bugs and elm seed beetles. And then this fall we've actually seen a lot of lygus bugs, and they look like stink bugs, but they're longer, they're brown, and they've got long legs, and they're, if you step on them, they're really crunchy. You can
they almost look like squash beetles.
They look like squash beetles, but they have really long antennae, and they've got really long legs, and they look like squash beetles, but they are not like harmful. They won't like hurt people or anything, so they don't like bite, and they don't really bother the plants. They're just more of a nuisance, just like just like the box elder bugs and the elm seed beetles. So we've had some really great results with a couple different products on the box elder bugs. So for a nice quick knockdown and a long residual, you can use either permethrin, like the indoor outdoor from High Yield, which would be excellent. Very low odor, very safe to use on plants, safe to use on lawns. weeds. You can even use it in the vegetable garden, and it will do a great job on box elder bugs, but also works on spiders and ants and earwigs and grasshoppers and a lot of other insects as well too. The Bug Blaster from High Yield is excellent also. A little bit longer residual, really quick knockdown, very safe to use. Both these products are very low toxicity for people, but very, very effective on the insects that we're starting to see a lot of invasion with those. So the box elder bugs and hobo spiders are starting to get really aggressive right now as well too. We'll see millipedes trying to come in, and we'll work on all those insects. So Bug Blaster from High Yield, the indoor outdoor also from High Yield would be excellent. And then if you want a longer residual, at that point I'd recommend a microencapsulated product like Seismic. The Seismic is microencapsulated. You'll get 3 to 4 months of control out of it on the insects. It really does a great job, and it's safe to use indoors as well as outdoors. Yeah, super, super safe product to use for kids and for pets, and super effective on all kinds of different insects. You'll get 3 to 4 months minimum out of the residual on that. So really, really effective.
Now, how do those do with mosquitoes? Because I saw a report, we're still seeing a lot of mosquitoes
yeah.
right now.
So all three of those products are great for mosquitoes.
Okay.
Yeah, and safe to use on plants, safe to use on buildings, surfaces as well too. The Bug Blaster isn't labeled for use indoors, but the indoor-outdoor is, and so is the Seismic. But they're all great for outdoor use and on plants and foundation sprays, and if you end up getting your shrubs and your trees. But the Bug Blaster is great for lawns. It's really good for lawns. So if your mosquitoes are just like hanging out there and you walk out in the lawn and they're like all over the place,
all over you,
that would be great. And the indoor-outdoor is excellent for that too. They're quite a bit less expensive than the Seismic, and will give you a lot more coverage out there.
I guess it's just what we have to suffer through because of these warmer temperatures that we've had.
Warmer temperatures, and then we did have a lot of rain there in August, and so then you get puddles, and that's when you get the mosquitoes going. So,
well, and the box elder bugs and all of the rest of them too.
Yep. Nice warm days, cool nights, and the box elder bugs just are hatching like crazy. Yeah, they're hatching like crazy. Not only are we dealing with box elder bugs, but we're dealing with weeds. And the same thing, cool, wet weather, warm days, weeds are popping up like crazy. I swear in August I had like my garden like perfectly clean, and then just like all it took was a week or two, and there was just weeds everywhere, just like everywhere. And the plants were getting big enough I couldn't run the tiller up and down the rows. So at that point I was just like, I'm done.
We were going through the bean plants the other night, and I said, nah, it's just not worth even fighting.
Unfortunately,
them
like the foxtails are like horrible this year.
Yeah.
The foxtails, you just walk through there, and all of a sudden you've got like stickers everywhere. Yeah. And then the burr buttercup has been horrendous, just terrible. So in the lawn, weed-free zone's my go-to. The weed-free zone just does a great job on any weeds in your lawn. Dandelions, clover, mallow, thistle, morning glory, a lot of these hard to kill weeds. The weed-free zone, daytime temperatures are perfect for doing it right now. You'll get just like the best control on the weeds, and breaks down really quickly, so it's gone very quickly, but you'll also be able to spray one day and watch the weeds die the next. It just works really fast on some of the harder to kill weeds. You'll get some really great results this time of year because the weeds are pulling that energy from the leaves down into the root system, and the weed killer will go with it down in the root system, and it will just kill all the roots out. So by next spring, you won't have a single weed out there if you get a good application on in the fall. But then you'll have new weeds that appear, midsummer, that are germinating in the springtime. So best time of year to control weeds in your lawn. And then in the garden, you've got some really great options. You've got either Decimate from Fertilome, which breaks down really, really quickly. It's gone out of the soil in 24 hours. So you don't have to worry about any residual in your soil. 24 hours and it's pretty much gone. And then you've also got Killzall, which 4 to 7 days, it's biodegraded out of the soil as well too. And both of those work on weeds and grasses both. So they'll kill everything that you spray it on. So once you've got all your vegetables harvested, once you've got all your flowers done, if you've got a bunch of weeds out there, you can go out there and spray. If we've got 60 to 70 degree daytime temperatures, all those products are going to work amazingly well. They're going to do a really great job. They're going to work fast. The Decimate works faster than the Killzall for sure. and it will kill whatever weeds you've got left out there. And then you put your compost on and till it in, and away you go.
Yeah. And you're set for spring.
Ready to go for spring. And it's a great way to rejuvenate your flower beds, too, before you plant your bulbs. So you can go in there, you can pull all your annual flowers out, you can spray, get rid of all the weeds, turn the soil over a little bit, and then it makes it really easy to dig holes and plant your bulbs that way.
All right.
And then in your vegetable garden, that way we get a nice, clean, fresh start for next year. We're not transferring weeds from this year, letting them carry over until next year. We can just kill off a whole crop, and then you get a nice fresh start next spring.
Okay.
Yeah, good way
so,
to go.
Reminder that it is homecoming today, so
Yes.
part of Main Street is closed through the morning, but Anderson is going to be open as always, and the cash sale is going on in the last 30 seconds. We want to remind people that you can get great discounts right now coming in and using cash.
Yeah, great time to come into the store. Center Street's still gorgeous. There's some beautiful flowers out there. You can hang out there before the parade. Go up and enjoy the parade. Come back, hang out on Center Street. And then we've got the cash sale going on, 60% off if you pay with cash on our trees and shrubs. Bulbs are in. Garlic is here. Mums and asters just got a new shipment. That's a great time, great weekend to be at Anderson's.
Absolutely. And go Aggies for homecoming.
Go Aggies.
And we'll be back again next week to take more of your calls and your questions about all things gardening and around the lawn and the house with the Garden Guide. And, of course, if you miss a show, you can always visit our website, kvnutalk.com, click on the podcast link, and enjoy prior shows of The Garden Show. And we'll see you back next week on The Garden Show here on KVNU.
Following the big stories, News Talk KVNU. Logan, proud to be locally owned and operated